Hey everyone, welcome back to Real Talk, the podcast where I break down the films that entertain, confuse, or downright baffle us, sometimes all at once. I'm your host Josh, and today I'm hacking through the thick jungle of 1990s cinema, dodging laser beams, deciphering ancient secrets, and encountering, well, some truly questionable CGI gorillas. That's right, we're talking about Congo. Now, let's set the scene for a moment. It's the mid-90s. Michael Crichton adaptations are the in thing in Hollywood. Jurassic Park had already made $1 billion and revolutionized blockbuster filmmaking. So, naturally, studios were hungry for more Crichton-fueled adventure. Enter Congo, a story about lost cities, diamond-fueled laser guns, and a sign language-speaking gorilla named Amy. On paper, sounds like a slam dunk. You got a big budget jungle adventure, a cast of talented actors including Laura Linney, Ernie Hudson, and Tim Curry, and a director, Frank Marshall, who knows a thing or two about crafting action-packed blockbusters. But what we got was something very different, something weirder, something that straddles the line between thrilling adventure and absolute camp. This is a film that blends action, sci-fi, adventure, but not in the seamless, polished way we saw in Jurassic Park. No, Congo is more like if Indiana Jones had a direct-to-video sequel where half the budget mysteriously vanished and the filmmakers decided, you know what this movie needs? Gorillas that look like they came from a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic show. Some people love it, some people despise it. And most of us, even after watching it multiple times, are still scratching our heads and asking, how did this get made? Now, don't get me wrong, Congo isn't without its charm. There are moments of unintentional hilarity, some genuinely fun performances, and a plot that is, at the very least, never boring. But the question remains, is Congo a misunderstood 90s adventure classic? Or is it just a spectacular misfire with some guilty pleasure appeal? Well, let's see what we can figure out. In this episode, I'll attempt to break down the film's background, highlight some of its most memorable or, well, let's be honest, ridiculous moments, and of course, I'll give you my honest take on whether Congo is a forgotten gem or is it just plain forgettable. So grab your gear, check your satellite signal, and, for the love of all things cinematic, watch out for rogue primates. Let's dive into the Congo. Alright, before we jump into the jungle with this one, let's take a step back and set the stage. The 1990s were an incredible time for adventure films. This was the era of Jurassic Park, The Mummy, and Jumanji, and all those big, high-energy blockbusters that threw a ragtag group of heroes into dangerous, exotic locations. Some of these films became instant classics, still beloved today. Others, well, they aimed for greatness and landed somewhere closer to late-night cable reruns. And Congo falls firmly into the latter category. It's got all the ingredients of a thrilling adventure movie. Lost cities, ancient mysteries, corporate greed, and of course, deadly apes. And yet, something about this movie makes it feel more like an expensive B-movie rather than a Spielbergian thrill ride. But that's also what makes Congo such a fascinating watch. This is one of those films that swings so wildly between genres. One moment, serious jungle expedition. The next, goofy comedy with a gorilla who talks through a robotic glove. This is the kind of movie where you can't quite tell if everyone involved knew what they were making or if they genuinely thought they were crafting the next Indiana Jones. Either way, it's a ride, so let's dive in and take a look at the background of Congo, how it came to be, why it feels so strangely off kilter, and why, despite all its flaws, I still find it weirdly entertaining. Let's start with the basics. Congo was released in 1995, directed by Frank Marshall. Now, if you don't immediately recognize the name, you definitely know his work. Marshall isn't just some random filmmaker. He's really kind of Hollywood royalty when it comes to producing. He was behind some of the biggest hits of the 80s and 90s, including Raiders of the Lost Ark, The Goonies, Jurassic Park. He has a pretty stacked resume. But when he stepped into the director's chair, well, let's just say his success rate wasn't quite the same. Congo was supposed to be his big moment, his chance to direct an epic adventure movie instead of just producing one. And while the film certainly has adventure, it also has a talking gorilla and Tim Curry hamming it up in ways that can only be described as inspired lunacy. The movie, as we mentioned, was based on a Michael Crichton novel from 1980, and if you've read the book, you know it's actually a pretty solid techno-thriller. It has that classic Crichton formula, science mixed with mystery, some corporate espionage, and a deep fear of nature turning against us. But somewhere between the page and the screen, things kind of went sideways. Crichton's book is relatively serious. It focuses on the dangers of the jungle, lost civilizations, and the ethical dilemmas of using technology to communicate with animals. The film, however, well, let's just say it decided to lean into the camp and never look back. And then there's the cast. Congo somehow assembled an all-star lineup, and then they gave him some of the most bizarre material to work with. Let me break that down a little bit. First, we have Laura Linney, who plays Dr. Karen Ross, a communications expert who, at first glance, seems like she's going to be the grounded, serious lead. But by the end of the movie, she's blasting laser beams at killer apes, and honestly, I just respect the commitment. Dylan Walsh plays Peter Elliott, a primatologist whose entire character arc revolves around his sign language speaking gorilla, Amy. And folks, we need to talk about Amy, because Amy the gorilla is played by a person in a suit and some early animatronics. It's one of the weirdest elements of the movie. She talks through a voice-generated glove. She paints, she drinks martinis. I mean, she's basically a socialite who just happens to be a gorilla. Ernie Hudson plays Captain Monroe Kelly, the one person in this entire movie who seems to understand what kind of film he's in. He's suave, funny, and has that perfect mix of adventure hero energy. Honestly, if Congo had just been about him, it probably would have been a much better movie. Tim Curry, and where do I even start? Tim Curry plays Herkimer Homolka. He's a Romanian treasure hunter who speaks in an accent that sounds like he's just making it up as he goes along. He's supposed to be mysterious and cunning, but every time he opens his mouth, you can't help but start to chuckle. It's one of the most gloriously over-the-top performances of his career, and that's saying a lot from Tim Curry. He's made an entire career of just being larger than life and everything, and it's hilarious. And finally, Bruce Campbell. He's in the movie for maybe 5 minutes, but it's just long enough to remind us that he's awesome before he gets killed off. And honestly, the biggest tragedy of the movie is that we don't get more Bruce Campbell. Now, you might be wondering though, why did I pick this movie? Well, I have a soft spot for 90s adventure films, and Congo is one of those movies that should have been amazing. I mean, just look at the ingredients. A well-known director, a talented cast, a script based on a Crichton novel. I mean, it all should have worked. But somehow, instead, Instead of being something on that level of Jurassic Park, we get these killer gray gorillas and a laser gun subplot that just seems to come out of nowhere. And yet, I still can't bring myself to hate it. In fact, I kind of love it, but not in the way you love a good movie. Congo is one of those films that's so wildly bizarre, you just can't look away. And every time I think it's about to settle into being a serious adventure, it throws something ridiculous at me. I mean, talking gorilla, sure. Tim Curry chewing scenery, absolutely. A final battle where Laura Linney wipes out an army of mutant apes with a diamond-powered laser? Why not? There's something strangely charming about how off the rails this movie gets. It's kind of like watching a train derail in slow motion. You know it's a disaster, but you can't stop watching. So, is Congo a good movie? Absolutely not. Is it entertaining? Without a doubt. And that's why it's on the watch list. Because sometimes you don't need a masterpiece. Sometimes you just need a movie that makes you laugh, shake your head and ask yourself, how did this even get made? And that, my friends, is exactly what Congo delivers. Now, some movies are memorable because they're masterfully crafted, filled with deep characters, gripping storytelling, and breathtaking visuals. Congo is not one of those movies. No, Congo is the kind of film that makes you ask if it really just happened every 5 minutes. It's kind of a cinematic fever dream of talking gorillas, ancient ruins, absurd accents, and laser-firing climax that all feels like it was stolen from a completely different movie. And yet, despite all this, or maybe it's because of all this film has its own strange and undeniable charm. So let's break it down. What's the story here? Why are we dealing with treasure hunters, lost cities, and a martini-drinking gorilla? And what are the moments that truly define the madness that is Congo? Buckle up, because now we're heading into the jungle. So, imagine you're a big-time CEO at a high-tech communication company. You've just sent an expedition deep into the uncharted Congo jungle in search of rare diamonds that could power the most advanced laser technology in the world. This is not a cheap expedition. You've got a full team, state-of-the-art satellite technology, and a former action horror icon, Bruce Campbell, leading the charge. Everything seems to be going fine, until it isn't. The team suddenly goes dark. Their final transmission is filled with screaming, static, and something moving in the shadows. And just like that, your billion-dollar mission is lost. Enter Dr. Karen Ross, played by Laura Linney. She's a no-nonsense scientist with a military background. She's determined to find out what happened to the missing team, including her former fiancé. She convinces her boss to let her head into the jungle and retrieve the lost crew, and more importantly, the precious diamonds. But of course, it's never that simple. Meanwhile, across town, Dr. Peter Elliott, played by Dylan Walsh, has a very different reason for heading to the Congo. He's a primatologist, basically a gorilla expert, who's been teaching a gorilla named Amy to use sign language. But this is where things get weird. Amy doesn't just sign. She wears a futuristic glove that translates her signs into a robotic voice. That's right, folks, this is a talking gorilla. A talking gorilla that also happens to paint pictures of a mysterious jungle, despite never having been there. Peter, convinced Amy is having some deep-rooted Call of the Wild moment, decides to take her back to Africa and release her into her natural habitat. These two missions, the high-stakes corporate diamond hunt, the oddly heartwarming Free Willy but with a gorilla subplot, intersect with Peter and Karen end up on the same flight to Africa, but they're not alone. Enter two of the best and most absurd characters in the film. First, Captain Monroe Kelly, as you know, played by Ernie Hudson. He's a suave, effortlessly cool adventurer who seems like he should be starring in a much better movie. Then there's Tim Curry's character of Herkimer Homolka, the treasure hunter with an indeterminate but ridiculous Eastern European accent. He claims to be searching for the lost city of Zinj, a mythical location filled with diamonds. He's also incredibly shady, the kind of guy you know is going to be a problem, but you just got to hang on for the ride. Together, this unlikely crew sets off into the jungle, first facing some deadly hippos, some government coups, and eventually, the movie's big bad, a horde of hyper-aggressive, ancient, gray-skinned killer gorillas. Because, of course, why wouldn't there be killer gorillas? And if you think that sounds like a lot, well, that's where the movie kinda is just getting started. But we don't do spoilers here, so let's move on to some of my standout scenes. There are movies where the standout moments are scenes of masterful storytelling or emotional depth. Congo is not one of those movies. Instead, Congo thrives in its weirdness. So, let's take a look at 3 scenes that truly capture the essence of this wild ride. First up, Amy the gorilla drinking a martini. Most movies introduce their main animal characters in a way that makes us feel connected to them. Maybe a dramatic rescue, a moment of bonding with the protagonist, or some heartwarming gesture. Congo? Not Congo. Congo gives us Amy, sitting comfortably in first class, drinking a martini like she's James Bond. The moment, though, is important for 2 reasons. First, it sets the tone that this movie has absolutely no interest in realism. Second, it makes you realize that Amy is going to be a lot throughout this movie. From here on out, every time she speaks through that robotic voice glove, you'll either laugh, cringe, or question your life choices. Second is the laser gun finale. Up until the last act, Congo is, at the very least, a jungle adventure movie. Dangerous terrain, wild animals, and the looming threat of something sinister. But then, out of absolutely nowhere, the film goes full sci-fi action. Turns out the whole diamond hunt subplot wasn't just about corporate greed, it was about weaponized laser beams. As the group faces off against an overwhelming horde of killer gorillas, Laura Linney whips out a diamond-powered laser gun and starts vaporizing them like she's in a cutscene from a 90s arcade game. Does it make sense? No. Does it look completely ridiculous? Absolutely. But is it one of the most hilariously awesome things ever put to film? Without question. And then third is Tim Curry's accent, also known as the gift that keeps on giving. Look, there's no easy way to say this. Tim Curry is in a different movie than everyone else. While most of the cast is playing it relatively straight, Curry is fully aware of the absurdity and leans into it with everything he has. His accent is so thick, so cartoonish, and so unplaceable that it feels like a parody of something, but you're never quite sure what. I mean, every line he delivers is an experience. It doesn't matter what he says, it's how he says it. Some actors try to elevate a bad movie. Tim Curry decided to make it worse in the best possible way. So what do we make of Congo? It's not a good movie by traditional standards. Its plot is all over the place. Its CGI is laughably bad. And it doesn't seem to know what kind of movie it wants to be. But somehow all of that makes it weirdly entertaining. It's a film that shouldn't work, but it does, in the way that only bizarre 90s adventure films can. Is it a classic? No, not in a traditional sense, but if you're looking for a movie filled with unintentional comedy, some bonkers action, and Tim Curry going full Muppet Treasure Island Tim Curry, well, Congo is absolutely worth your time. And at the very least, you'll get to see a gorilla drink a martini, and how many movies can say that? Now for the real talk. What do I think of this film? You ever watch a movie and just know that somewhere deep in the Hollywood machine, someone believed they were making the next big thing? That's Congo. It's got all the ingredients of a blockbuster. Big action set pieces, exotic locations, a strong literary foundation, and a cast that should have knocked it out of the park. But instead, what we got was a film that feels like an expensive B-movie. And honestly, that's kind of why I love it. This is a film that asks you to accept some truly wild things. A gorilla with a talking glove, a treasure hunter with an accent that defies explanation, an ancient lost city guarded by murderous gray apes. If you try to take Congo seriously, you're in for a frustrating experience. But if you lean into the absurdity, it becomes something more special. Not good, but special. So let's break it down. Starting with its entertainment value. So let's be honest, Congo is not a great movie. The visual effects have aged terribly. The tone is all over the place, and the script feels like it was written about 12 times by people who were never speaking to each other. It's a haphazard blend of adventure, sci-fi, action, and camp, with moments that feel like they belong in Jurassic Park, and others feel like they were ripped from the precursor to Sharknado, some bad sci-fi channel original movie. But is it fun? And you know what? Yeah, it kind of is. There's a specific joy in watching a movie where every choice feels just a little off. From the moment Amy starts using her electronic glove to say things like, "Amy, good gorilla," you know you're in for something different. It's like Jurassic Park if the dinosaurs were badly costumed extras and everyone involved had the acting direction of just go with it. And then let's talk about Ernie Hudson, because my God, does this man understand the assignment? His portrayal of Captain Monroe Kelly, the charismatic cigar-smoking adventurer who seems completely unfazed by everything around him. Killer Akes, meh. A volcano erupting, no big deal. A talking gorilla? I've seen worse. He walks through this movie like a man who got his paycheck up front and is here for a good time. He's effortlessly cool, and honestly, the movie is much better whenever he is on screen. And then there's Tim Curry, who is absolutely unhinged in his role. His character is some kind of Romanian treasure hunter, but I think his accent is not from somewhere on this planet. It is so bizarre, exaggerated, and vaguely European. It's this thing that just shifts from scene to scene. It's like if Dracula and Borat had a baby and that baby decided to go treasure hunting. It's objectively bad, but it's also the reason it's so funny. And the thing about about Congo here is that it never quite settles into one tone. One minute you're watching sci-fi thriller, the next your jungle adventure, then suddenly Laura Linney is back to blasting gorillas with a laser-powered gun run by diamonds. The sheer randomness of it all just keeps it entertaining, even if it never makes sense. So again, is Congo a good movie? Absolutely not. But is it fun? If you go in with the right expectations, this is 100% a fun movie. Alright, so let's talk about the actual storytelling though. Because the plot itself isn't terrible. It's a classic setup. A corporate expedition goes missing in the jungle while searching for diamonds. A rescue team, including a scientist trying to return his gorilla to the wild, is sent to investigate. Of course, things go horribly wrong and the group finds themselves in an ancient lost city facing off against mysterious dangers. But that's a pretty solid sounding script or story idea. But the execution is a mess. The pacing is weirdly uneven. Some parts of this film just drag, while others move so fast that there's little explanation. The stakes never feel real, and the moments that should be thrilling, like the group being attacked by the laser-dodging gorillas, just comes off as goofy. There's no real tension because everything is so disconnected. It's like watching a bunch of loosely related action scenes stitched together with no real emotional weight. But the biggest issue, though, are the characters. Now, I already mentioned how Ernie Hudson and Tim Curry get what kind of movie they're in. They're hamming it up and that works. But the actual main characters are completely forgettable. Dylan Walsh, he's just sort of there as Dr. Peter Elliott. He's supposed to be our emotional center, but his relationship with the gorilla is so oddly handled that it just doesn't land. And Laura Linney is supposed to be this badass corporate operative, Dr. Karen Ross. But the script never gives her anything interesting to do outside of the ridiculous laser finale. And speaking of Amy the gorilla, well, let me address that whole situation. The idea of a sign language speaking gorilla is kinda cool in theory. But the expedition is so goofy that it's impossible to take seriously. Her robotic voice sounds like an 8-year-old doing a bad Siri impression. And her movements are, I guess they're just a little too human. I mean, there are moments where it feels like she's about to break out of character and start adjusting the costume. So yeah, the story moves along but never grabs you. Instead of feeling invested, you're just kind of along for the ride, waiting to see what weird thing this film is going to throw at you next. So where does that leave us? Well, look, Congo is a bad movie. There is no getting around that. The effects are rough. The plot is a mess. It's all over the place. And most of the characters are as lifeless as an animatronic gorilla. But at the same time, there's a weird charm to it. It's campy. It's bizarre, like a B-movie that somehow got this $50 million budget and an A-list cast. Would I recommend it? Yeah, if you're in the mood for a serious adventure thriller, no, I would not recommend this movie. But if you're in the mood for something so ridiculous it becomes weirdly enjoyable, then yeah, pour yourself a drink, maybe a martini, embrace the nonsense and just have fun. My rating is 4 out of 10. It's bad, but in that entertainingly bad way. And honestly, I'm gonna watch it again. And just like that, we've reached the end of another episode of Real Talk. If you made it this far, first of all, thank you. Whether you're a longtime listener or you just stumbled upon this podcast because you too have an oddly specific fascination with mid-90s adventure flicks, well, I just appreciate you being here. Now, if you had fun on this wild ride through Congo, whether you're laughing with the movie or at it, why not stick around for more? Go ahead and subscribe to Real Talk wherever you get your podcasts. That way you won't miss a single deep dive into the weird, the wonderful, and the what the hell were they thinking corners of cinema. And hey, if you're feeling generous, drop a quick review. It's a small thing, but trust me, it makes a huge difference. If for nothing else, it lets me know what you think. And this is an ego trip, really. I just want to talk, and I want to talk to other people. So every view helps more movie lovers, nostalgia seekers, and curious minds find the show, and it lets me feel good about myself for a minute. Plus, let's be real. It's just nice to hear from you guys. I love knowing that I'm not just shouting out into the void about talking gorillas and Tim Curry's amazing accents. If you want to keep the conversation going, you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real Talk. If you've got a guilty pleasure movie, a hidden gem you think deserves more love, a film so baffling you need someone else to suffer through it with you, let me know. I'm always open for suggestions. Now, as much as I enjoyed trekking through the absurdity of Congo, next time we're heading into a different kind of disaster disaster zone. Sometimes it's hard to talk. We're going to swap killer apes for giant underground monsters and heading to the dusty, isolated town of Perfection, Nevada. That's right, next up we're covering Tremors. Tremors, the movie Congo wanted to be. If you love practical effects, snappy one-liners, and Kevin Bacon in his prime, Tremors is an absolute must-watch. It's a creature feature that knows exactly what it is. It's fun, it's fast-paced, and full of surprisingly lovable characters. So get ready for some graboids, homemade explosives, and more survivalist energy than an entire season of doomsday preppers. It's going to be a blast, quite literally. Until then, though, if someone invites you on an expedition to the Congo, and there's even a whisper of killer apes, ancient lost cities, or mysterious high-tech laser guns, maybe, just maybe, sit that one out. Until next time, keep watching, keep loving, and keep those reels rolling. We'll talk to you all soon.
Underneath the sun's green, 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 talking reels and all their schemes, dusty scenes and dreams unfold, stories told in shadows bold, gritty plots and whispers tight, dim the streets in moonlight bright. We dissect the cinematic art, real by real we pull apart. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and starlit sway, reviewing tales both light and dark, classic films that leave